Hello there, this is Dana Arcuri, author, speaker, survivor, advocate, and certified trauma recovery coach from danaarcuri.com. If you are new to my channel, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any new content. And if you are returning to my YouTube channel, welcome back. It's so great to have you here. Today's topic is how to stop narcissistic supply and how to outsmart the narcissist with reverse psychology. And this is something that takes time, it takes education, wisdom, discernment, and life experiences that can bring you into a new season of life where you learn the really important tools that can equip you to starve the narcissist of their narc supply and to use on them reverse psychology. And so let's take a deep dive into this topic. And we'll start with, hey, what is narcissistic supply? So according to the website Choosing Therapy, they say narcissistic supply refers to the constant supply of attention and admiration needed by the narcissist. To gain the attention, narcissists will often use a false self that is likable to attract people to them. However, because narcissists are unable to make healthy connections, they target people who are more vulnerable in order to feed their supply. And so if you have experienced and suffered narcissistic abuse, you are well aware of all the covert tactics the narc will use to manipulate you, gaslight you, to be cruel towards you, to try to make you feel like you're going crazy. And this is what the narc is so good at. And yet when we take back our own personal power and we educate ourselves about all the signs of narcissistic abuse and all the little crazy making tactics they do with their narc supply, we can learn to outsmart them. And it is the most exhilarating, empowering experience on earth. So let's get started today with first the 8 types of people that the narc will target. And I'm only leaving it to 8, but keep in mind there's a wide, long list of who the narcissist is going to groom and prey upon. But we're going to keep it kind of simple today and keep it to 8. So number 1, the narcissist will target abuse and trauma survivors. The narc will target anyone who is a highly sensitive person. Truth seekers. They will target vulnerable people, especially if you're low income, if you have a disability, any kind of emotional or mental health challenges. They are going to target you because you might appear to the narc as easy prey. Next, the narcissist will target empaths and healers. The narcissist will target those who've already suffered narcissistic abuse. So I'm going to stop right there just for a second on this one. It's very common that if you have experienced at least one time in your life narcissistic abuse, it is actually very, very common and higher up in statistics that you could be preyed upon again by a totally different narcissist. And so in the narcissistic community, we are talking about this. We're talking about how if you've been in one relationship, very codependent, dysfunctional relationship with at least one narc, it may have been in your early days, your mother, your father, your grandparents, your brother, your sister, or someone else. And what can happen is later in life, I'm talking much later in life, you might find yourself in an intimate relationship, and to your shocking surprise, it ends up being a narcissist. Extremely heartbreaking, actually just grueling and stressful, very traumatic. And the thing is that it is very normal and common for narcissists to prey on people. And if you've already suffered narcissistic abuse, they seem to know those people, meaning if you're the black sheep of the family or you've been a scapegoat in the past, There might be some signs, and it could be subtle or it might be blatant and very clear, but the narcissist will prey on you, and they really do handpick you. I want to say that you're not a magnet. So I've rethought this whole thing on people saying, hey, I feel like I'm a magnet for narcs. You know, it's not that you're a magnet. It's just that you may have vulnerabilities. You may not be totally educated about narcissistic abuse. You may not be aware of the signs and the symptoms of narcissistic personality disorder and narcissistic abuse. So we don't know what we don't know, which is why I create these videos so you can gain more insight, wisdom, discernment, and educate yourself so you can take back your power against narcissistic abuse and fueling the fires of narcissistic supply. So let's move on. The next, number 7, would be another person who might be a target for a malignant and or covert narcissist are people pleasers. Oh, they love people pleasers because they know they can manipulate you very easily. Next would be the last one, number 8. If you are a kind-hearted, compassionate, loving, caring person, oh, they love you also because they know you'll bend over backwards to try to make them appreciated, and you're so kind, and you might have a lot of compliments. You might be just such a good person, and they definitely are seeking to prey upon anyone who's kind and good-hearted. But don't change. Don't change. Your kindness is not a weakness. So don't turn into a bitter person. Instead, become a better person when you educate yourself about narcissistic abuse, and you could reclaim your own personal peace of mind. So let's talk about what is reverse psychology. According to Wikipedia.com, they say reverse psychology is a technique involving the assertion of a belief or behavior that is opposite to the one desired, with the expectation that this approach will encourage the subject of the persuasion to do what is actually desired. And so reverse psychology is actually doing the opposite of what the narcissist expects you to say and do. Okay, so let's just give an example. The narcissist, we know they're very manipulative. We know they will gaslight you. They create smear campaigns, pathological lies. They fabricate rumors and stories and nonsense about you. They try to destroy you and triangulate every one of your relationships. And so it's mental abuse, it's bullying, it's hostility, it is just outright cruelty. But we can understand that at the core, at the root of what the narcissist anticipates, they want you to have a meltdown. They want you crying, screaming. They want you swearing profanities. They want you to fight back. Think of it like this. Consider them like a savage vampire. Okay, it's a vampire. They want to suck the life out of you. They want to suck the joy out of you. They want to destroy you and annihilate you. And so they're going to push your buttons so they can get an emotional reaction from you. And so the opposite is what we need to focus on. We need to be creative in our response. We need to know that we cannot give the narcissist their narc supply, and we have to learn how to outsmart them and starve the narcissist, which is why I created this video, to help you take back your power, outsmart the narc, starve them of narc supply. Okay, so here's some other examples of what I've personally experienced when I was still in a relationship with my narcissistic mother. And I started learning her tactics. So, through the years, once I realized in 2018, wow, she really is a narcissist. She really does have mental instabilities. She really is very cunning and malicious and so mean-spirited. I started to use reverse psychology on her, and it worked wonders for me. And so one time I was at my mother's home. It was during the holidays, and I was in a good mood and feeling the spirit of the holidays. And my mother decided to rain on my parade. Isn't that just like the narc mothers? They don't want you happy and joyous and celebratory. No, they want to be filling you with doom and gloom, and they're so highly judgmental and there's condemnation, harsh judgments, and a lot of gaslighting and malicious remarks that kind of just spew out of their mouths. And so on this particular day when I was visiting my mother and I'm in a happy mood, she decides to fat shame me. That's right, my mother starts fat shaming me. And I'm just listening. So I don't react, I just observe. I observe her body language. I observe her words. I observe her behaviors and actions. And she says to me, "Your butt and your thighs are so large." And I'm letting that kind of like soak in. I'm processing what she just said. Okay, so she said basically that my rear end and my thighs are too big. And so she was fat shaming me. And instead of reacting by like crying, screaming, defending myself, explaining myself, arguing with her and being in a big fat conflict over her fat shaming me, I thought, no, I'm not caving into this narc supply. And instead I looked at her and I smiled. And then I laughed out loud in her face. And I said, "Oh, mother, the men just love it." And then I just kept laughing. And basically I was saying that the men just love my body. The men just love how I look. And the reason why I came up with that creative response was because I know that it was the opposite of what she expected. And again, instead of being angry with her and having a conflict and fighting or crying or swearing or storming out of her house, I decided to go with comedy. Go with something light and funny. And I think the reason why I chose to say, "Oh, the men just love it," is because it would tick her off. And here's the truth. Okay, so during this timeline, I was actually at my thinnest, healthiest stage in life. So I was in my early 50s and I was at a really good place in my weight. I was very happy with how I looked on the outside. And so I know, number one, no, I don't have a huge rear end, and no, I don't have ginormous thighs. Actually, I think the irony and how funny that actually my legs are the best feature I have. And I always get a lot of compliments on my legs. So I knew that if I would just joke to my mother and not take her serious and not fight back, basically I'm not caving into her narc supply, that she would be very upset. And I didn't care. At this point, I thought, I don't care. You want to ruffle my feathers? Hey, I'll ruffle your feathers. And so, but instead of coming off like in a mean-spirited way, I come off like ha 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 in a joking way. And it's basically giving the narc a taste of their own medicine. And so what happened? Oh, my mother was furious. Oh, how dare I stand up for myself? How dare I come up with something that was funny and humorous, and that I basically am like, hey, the men love it. Hey, they like how I look. And the truth is this, it's really not about men. I mean, come on now, I'm a married woman. So it really isn't even about my appearance. Now it's about, I'm just going to say the opposite. I'm just going to give her a response that she never anticipated. I'm going for shock value. And boy, oh boy, did that shock value work. So she then shut up. And think about it. That's the response I wanted her to have. So my reverse psychology was, I need to get her to stop saying these horrible things about me. I need to have her to stop fat shaming me. So instead of fighting with her, I'm just going to say something humorous and comical, kind of lighten the spirit, lighten, what's going on, the energy within this home. Of course, it's toxic because it was my mother's home. And yet it worked just so very well. So the goal was to stop her in her tracks so she would stop baiting me and gaslighting me and manipulating me. And it worked. So woo, 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 kudos to me. Next would be on another occasion, and this one actually was habitual. So I started noting patterns, and we must understand the narcissist does have patterns. So there are times they're going to be charming and nice. They might compliment you. Other times they're going to be cruel. They're going to criticize you. They're going to judge you. They're going to bring you down. They're going to mentally abuse you. They might even physically assault you. And they're going to definitely try to push every button of yours to stir up some trouble because they crave narcissistic supply. And so we can't do that. But there's these patterns, and I, at this point in my stages of recovery, I was very aware now of the patterns my mother had. There were times she was nice. There were times we did get along. There were other times she was very, very covert, sneaky, pathological lying. Oh, the amnesia, selective amnesia, pretending she didn't know what I was talking about if I did ever call her out on anything. And then she loved to play the denial, deceptive, and dysfunctional mind games. And there was a lot of crazy making. But what happened was the repetitive pattern was this. When I would ever be visiting my mother, and then I'd be leaving. So I'm going to go home now. And I have my purse, and I have my jacket, and I have everything I need. And she walks me to the door to say goodbye. So I'm saying goodbye. And my mother says, every single time, you never visit me anymore. And she's pouting. You never visit me anymore. You don't call me anymore. You're never coming around anymore. And I reached a place where I gave her the opposite response. So I used reverse psychology. So instead of explaining myself, defending myself, arguing with her, trying to justify my own actions or making up excuses, I said nothing. Nothing. There were times I literally just looked at her and smiled. That's it. Other times, shrugged my shoulders. And I thought, I'm not going there. Not going there. I'm not giving you fuel for your narc supply. And I'm not going to have this discussion. And so reverse psychology worked real well. It reached a point where she did stop accusing me of never visiting her and never seeing her, because she knew that she was not able to push those buttons, and no, she was not getting narcissistic supply from me. And so we're going to end on this. Steps to stop narcissistic supply with reverse psychology. Number one, don't overreact. You need to be creative and outsmart the narcissist. Remember, they want you to cry, scream, yell, cuss them out, storm out, and march out of the room. They want to push your buttons. Don't let them. Number two, don't cry or have an emotional meltdown. Number three, don't waste your breath trying to explain yourself. Don't, because it is a unproductive waste of your time and energy. And the truth is, a narcissist, they will always have something to fight back with. No matter what you say, they want to get the last word. So don't explain yourself. Next would be, don't argue with them. Do not start throwing things and trying to make sense out of the crazy making nonsense. Again, it's a waste of your precious time and energy. Next would be number 5. Don't fall for the baiting trap, even when the narcissist will provoke you. So they will bait you. They do have like self-projection and a lot of crazy stuff that they say and do. It's part of their tool chest of ways to abuse you. But do not cave in to them provoking you. No emotional reaction is needed. And number 6, so don't engage with them. Now that's really important. Now they want you engaging. They want you talking, screaming, fighting. Don't. Instead, detach emotionally, and if you need to, physically. Detach yourself from them. Next would be number 7. Consider having a good sense of humor. For some of us, it can work. Some of us, we do have a silly side to ourselves. I know I do. You might not always see it on my YouTube channel, but those who really know me, people who are friends with me, even my clients who I coach with, they know that I do have a sense of humor. And there are times, boy, oh boy, that sense of humor can really lighten the tension, the stress, and the toxic energy when in a conversation with a narcissist. Next would be number 8. So give the opposite response of what the narcissist will anticipate. And obviously you need to be creative. You need to take time to think of, if the narcissist does A, B, C, I will react in such and such a way. Meaning, actually, you're not going to react. So actually, let me reword that. Let me rephrase that. We're not overreacting. Instead, we're responding. We're observing. We're self-reflecting. And then we take the higher path by choosing the most successful manner to do the opposite of what the narcissist expects from us. And number 9, don't participate in the narcissist's dysfunction, their drama, and their crazy making covert tactics. And lastly, you may consider going no contact with the narcissist, or practice the gray rock method, which is, again, you're not giving emotional reactions. Gray rock, you're giving the least amount of words, time, and attention. You keep it very minimal, very minimal. And there are times where you just don't respond at all. So do what you need to do to take care of you. Share with me, have you ever used the reverse psychology on the narcissist or other toxic people? If so, share down below what you did. Next, have you experienced narcissistic supply? Share with me the covert or manipulative tactics that the narc used with you. Again, let's keep the conversation going down below. Like this video, subscribe to my channel. If you need narcissistic abuse recovery coaching or certified trauma recovery coaching, please visit me for emotional support at danarcuri.com. Thank you and have an awesome day.